Portions of the program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit education or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. This video was made for entertainment purposes and is transformative in nature.
And since the American white man has used his control over the press and over the textbooks and over all forms of media to make it appear that he has done us a favor by bringing us here and enslaving us, rewrite history or retell history. And since the white man can't dispute this truth, it's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here, it's truth. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated, it's truth. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate.
Yeah, so to be clear, I think one of the things we're talking about here is that there are now weapons under development and developed that are designed to target specific people. Right, that's what this is, where you can actually take someone's DNA, take their medical profile, and you can target a biological weapon that will kill that person or take them off the battlefield or make them inoperable. So you can't have a discussion about this without talking about privacy and commercial data and the protection of commercial data, because expectations of privacy have degraded over the last 20 years. Young folks actually have very little expectation of privacy. That's what the polling and the data show. And people will very rapidly spit into a cup and send it into 23andMe and get really interesting data about their background. And guess what? Their DNA is now owned by a private company and can be sold off with very little intellectual property protection or privacy protection. And we don't have legal and regulatory regimes to deal with that. So we have to have an open and public discussion, and this is going to have to be a political discussion about what does the protection of healthcare information, DNA information, and your data look like, because that data is actually going to be procured and collected by our adversaries for the development of these systems.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.
Hello and welcome to the most hated show on the black corner of YouTube. I am your host, the whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Mind, and this is WeUpReport. WeUpReport is to bring news, articulate, transmit, communicate, insinuate, develop, investigate, decode, unveil, spread the news, whether by news, video, website, or quote some publications. As I articulate this information, I ask that the creator of the universe be here, heart, soul, mind, and spirit. Because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created this land that you call the United States, we today in the present generation, we give honor to our ancestors. You know what the motto of my show is? I'm never gonna tell you what I heard. I'm only gonna tell you what I know. Welcome to another We Up Live tape recording. You know I've been gone for a hiatus. You knew I'd be back. Had to fight through some things, but my situation ain't better. Just really on the cusp of some changes. But I appreciate each and every one of you taking out time to come over here and click on this video. Well, as I've been sitting and watching a lot of my brothers and sisters who are here who are doing this social media, seems that we've been having a situation that I call myself a season has walked upon, and it looks like it's a season for pulling cards. And what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of stuff is happening again as we have been invaded from all angles. I would say that the greatest analogy that can be seen to be understood by most is when you watch that movie The Matrix. You remember Neo was fighting all the agents. It was a never-ending fight till even the chosen one had to say enough was enough, and he had to get up out of there. But in this case, we don't flee. What we do is we stand our ground and we go toe to toe, blow for what you know. Welcome to WeUpReport again. This is your host, Mr. Blow Your Minds, and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. Yes, I've been going on a hiatus, and I know many of y'all been anticipating and waiting, myself also. But the fact I want to say to all my day ones, thank you for staying and waiting and being anticipating and waiting, and here we is. Thank you for staying. WeUpReport bow our head and give grace and thanks and honor to each and every one of you. My newly subscribers, those who have came and recently have been saying, hey, I subscribe, I like some of the stuff I've seen, but where you been, man? You kind of slow. I know every day I'm kind of looking for something. Yeah, I've been going through some things and trying to get myself back on my feet. But I've been watching. Some of you might have seen me, some of you have not. But I want to thank you for subscribing. I hope you stay. And we'll try to keep some new stuff going on the daily. Pass it by. You having to pass by. This is the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. We always got a grand opening over here. Having to go down the aisle, see something that make you feel some kind of way. Remember, the motto of my show is the truth. Don't need no partner. Well, I heard what you said in the intro there, Mr. Blow Your Mind. What do you mean? I seen that thumbnail and everything. I was kind of like, what is that all about? Well, you know I'm going to go ahead and get into that and show you what I'm talking about. So, yes, that was the thumbnail. For those of you who might have clicked on it due to the simple fact you've seen that thumbnail. As it says on your screen, card pulling season officially open. Let me say that one more again. Card pulling season officially open. What do you mean by that, Mr. Blow Your Mind? When we talk about from where I'm from, we talking about pulling your card, right? You know what pulling your card mean? When we pulling your card, that means that somebody need to be straightened out. That means we need to have a talk. We need to straighten out this meeting of mind about some things that you saying or you doing that I think you kind of infringing. And so pulling card just means that people who are infringing, those are invoking negativity or putting a disdain or blemish or put some, as they say, put some respect on our name. Sometimes we have to let some things be pulled out in front of everybody to let you know that you're being chastised and being corrected. And for all those who fall under the same auspice or spirit, you get some, you catch some too. So this seemed to be recently, it must be in the season for this, because we see everywhere we turn, we see something about hip hop, we see people talking about tethers and people calling the cicadas. And it seemed to be like somebody in your house just totally just being disrespectful to you, and you just kind of accepting it because for some odd reason you don't want to break the vibe. You don't want to make no disturbance going on because everybody seems to be enjoying themselves, but this one person, or maybe it could be several people, seem to be trying to be like, trying to see if you weak, trying to peg you and trying to say, read you and say, man, you ain't standing on nothing. But so what ended up happening is you get your card pulled. And when you get your card pulled, a lot of people don't like their card being pulled. It means there's a correction happening. Sometimes some people just say, hey, you were wrong for pulling my card. Nah, some things just need to be done. And ain't no hard feelings about it. Just some correction needs to be had, right? So I've been seeing this season out here where I see my peoples out here those FBA, ADOS, indigenous, and all the above, feel the need that it is pulling card season. So I've been seeing some things, and I had watched some videos and then say, well, let me go ahead and get out here because I've been seeing so much going on and I haven't got out here, but I had to try to find a way to get out here. So I'm going to do it this way first. You'd be surprised how many videos I've actually done that just haven't been put out. I got videos, they got archives of things I done did, but I haven't put them out. So it's not like I'm not doing the work. I just haven't been able to put them out there for y'all to see, but I may slowly, start putting some of them out there, right? Depending on how all this goes down here. So as you heard in the intro there, I start off with a video, and the video was talking about how DNA is being weaponized, or the weaponization of DNA, right? You heard him, or do I need to play him again? Do we need to play him again for those who just heard it but didn't pay no attention to it? Maybe I won't, but that's how you got to be in class. Sometimes we go back, sometimes we don't have the time to go back. But anyway, in the intro there, you heard there was a conference that was had. They've been having these national conferences, right, pertaining to security and pertaining to a whole lot of other things that we've been out here watching. But this one in particular, as I go in, there's another video I will be showing you also, again, talking about DNA selling. And also this one in the beginning was talking about weaponization. When we think about weaponization, as being a weapon, right? Weapon is in the word of weaponization. Weapon is a key word there, right? So if somebody is going to use your DNA, which could be also considered your DNA properties, right? Some people say intellectual property. I say your biological properties. And how can the many ways of your DNA be weaponized against you? As you heard him say in his dissertation, he was saying there are these developed and undeveloped weapons that he said are designed to target specific people. Let me say this one more again. The individual that you've seen that was talking in that video was talking about how there are weapons developed and undeveloped. So there are some that are already done developed, and there's some that are they're in the works. They're in the workings of becoming developed. And they have the design to target specific people. Now, anytime you hear that specific people, know who we are, FBA, ADOS, indigenous, black Americans, all that entails, we talk about here within the confines of the United States and all others, right? When you say that, that means like war. That means somebody can use a weapon against you that may be undetectable and may seem that it only is targeting, because think about this, when we go back and look at that pandemic, and when it started to bring the rhetoric and the propaganda, it wasn't kind of specific, like it was only targeting, and then they said the reason was the contributing factors was due to the simple fact that, well, use people have a disposition because of your health, because of your poverty, that this virus seems to want to attack you based on those conditions. Now, we're not in no third world country. We in the first world country, but we are treated as second and third class citizens. And many of us would even argue the fact that you say citizens that we are not. Now, even myself, I will tell you what the Supreme Court done said. But the fact is that because of that, we seem to, the diseases and viruses seem to attack us like we got sugar, so the flies come on us because we the shit. All right, anyway. So he's saying that there are people out here who are using biological DNA properties so that they can use this as a weapon to target specific people. Now, if that doesn't perk your ears up, or that doesn't make your ADT alert system come on, put in the code, then I don't know what else to tell you. Right? So DNA genetic profiles. And he said specifically they can kill or take them off the planet or off the battlefield. Let me say this again. You heard him say in that video that the DNA genetic profile, which they can gather, can kill these specific people, can take these people off the planet, these specific people, or they can take them off the battlefield. Okay? Now, some people will say that we have been going through wars, and we don't mean the wars, the one general way of war. We're talking about bombs and tanks and that. There's many different ways of fighting, correct? There's always the art of fighting without fighting. And those are the things what they said, according to those who have read the spiritual book, or the book called the Bible. They said spiritual warfare. Well, that means things that cannot be detected in your physical realm. There may be some things that may be attacking you that you cannot perceive with the naked eye. And so some people have taught over the years, they talk about how the weaponization of the air, the water, the food, right? You done heard these things over the years. And so here was a video that I seen, and I said, well, let me go ahead and put something together because there's some other things. But besides of that, there's also another way of the weaponization that can also be used, that I'm seeing that there's kind of a movement of our people, as I said, FBA, ADOS, Black Americans, Indigenous, right? And as I go more into this, I'm going to show you that, let's say that there's another form of weaponization that I'm looking at because of things that I'm going to go into as I go more into this. So, okay, let's get ahead into this, right? He also talks about the privacy in the commercial data. The privacy is meaning the fact that once somebody gets this DNA or genetic profile, that once you give it to them, what are the restrictions and what can they do once they get it? And as I go on more, he's going to tell you how nonchalantly that people have been used under, let's say, their ignorance to just give away something that may be more detrimental or can be used detrimentally against you under the novelty of something that you thought was innocent. So he says that it's about the let's say expectation of privacy, right? You're talking about the expectation, meaning you expect if you gave something that could be something very vital to oneself, that somebody would not be haphazardly, nilly-willy giving it out, making it something of, anybody can have, meaning that you would be of care. But the problem is you probably didn't know what you were giving away. And so he said that by those who he said racing and spitting in the tube or cup, and then you're going to send this off. Now, when you do this and you're paying for it, now think about that. You pay to give somebody something that they really wanted. Think about this, right? And what he's talking about is those DNA tests, right? People go out there and get them DNA tests. When you get them DNA tests, you are looking for the lost found of yourself that they propagandize as what they can now give you. But really think about it, they're just giving you a geographical location, telling you maybe a tribe of people, but they never tell you specifically which people, who you, and what's your last name, and blase skippy. They don't do that, do they? So a lot of people on the generalities of being able to say percentage of this place here, this west here and that, and these particular tribe people here. But do you ever get to me, what is your name? What is your name? Right? And for many of us, we trying to say, well, how is that possible when for us, FBA, ADOS, Indigenous have been here for we don't know how long. But we know there is a story, there's a general story that a lot of people will subscribe to and say that is our story. But I'm here today to try to show you something a little bit different of some things that they putting out here. Not so much about what I'm putting out here. It's what they put out here. But we'll get into that as we get in more and more to this. But I'm going to get into what I'm saying with him first, right? So he said now that when you go ahead and spit in the cup or the tube and you send it off, and then the fact that it can now, when you give it, you're now allowing somebody else to become owners of this genetic DNA profile, properties, biology, your soup, your makeup, right? And what they can do from once they get it, right, this company that get it, then they can now, again, sell it off, trade it off, give your intellectual, he said intellectual property, I say biological properties, right? He can give that away to somebody else and become third party. See, he be the front, right? The bodega, he the front. But in the back, there might be guns and drugs and whatever else that might be going on, prostituting and everything else, smuggling, whatever else is in the back. But the front part of the store, for those who don't think it's just a store, going in there, purchasing their goods and services, and they leaving. Now, understand there's another couple layers going on in the back. So that's what he's saying. It's kind of like the novelty of when you think about DNA and the selling of it. But there's also could be a third party, another tentacle that's attached to it, that once you give it off of there, all right, there's nothing else to it. That's it. You buy, you get out. You'll buy now, get out. Right? You bought, you got what you want, now get out of our store. But what you purchased is beyond after the fact of what you gotten. You're going to get some data and some words and stuff that says about some stuff, but they also got some material that can go long lasting and be specific, as he said, target specific groups if they get enough of them, right? Or maybe they don't need as many. But anyway, so he says there's need to be a political discussion about this and the protection when it comes to medical DNA information. You agree or do you disagree? Do you agree or disagree that the fact there should be political discussions about this protection? Now, DNA is not nothing that just happened overnight. DNA has been around for some time. And so since it's been around for so much time, the question becomes why it was so lackadaisical now about protecting after you done already hoarded so much material. Let me say that one more again. So the political discussion, do you believe, when you talk about DNA, didn't just start over last night. DNA has been around for some time, and then when they're collecting it, and then you see that the holes in it when it comes to protecting your medical and DNA information, right? That there's really no restrictions and there's really no legislation about it. And the way that they do it in a novelty that makes you think that it's nothing but giving this away, and then he coming out talking about some weaponization. So now here's your data that's being procured by your adversary. Let me say that again. So now what they trying to come out and tell you in so many ways, that there's possibilities of you giving out your DNA spittle to get the recapture of a lost found family of the name of a tribe, but never the name specific of the individual and family members, that now you are susceptible to your adversary because they now have procured your biological DNA. You understand? They got it now. And so how can this be used? He says against us. But those of us in our country, in this country called the United States, when we say us, who are they talking about? Us. Right? Okay. So is that where you going with this, Mr. Blows Your Minds? Well, that is the theme of what we going again, as we say, we're going to talk about here about what? We're talking about this here, right? We're talking about pulling your card season officially opening, right? Card pulling season officially open. Gonna have to pull cards, y'all. Ain't no way of getting around it. There's no way of getting around it. You're gonna have to pull cards. A lot of stuff has been told to us that's been told to be a truth, but because we're now starting to delve and dive and sift through a lot of the lies and trying to figure out what is the truth and what's the lie and putting the pieces together of a puzzle. Any of y'all know that you have like grandmamas or mamas that grew when you were growing up and you used to see them, had a whole table and they would be doing 1,000-piece puzzle, 2,000-piece puzzle. And in the beginning, you just see, if you ever just sat there and watch, you seen that there's all the different pieces. And you would sit there and be like, I don't even know how you doing that, right? But there becomes a technique about the way that they do it. There's pieces, they look at the box and they know pieces and the coloration, and then they know how to put all those pieces, and then they start formulating, and it starts to get the outer parts of it, and then they work their way in, and next thing you know, you can start seeing the development of the picture. And that's what's happening with us, FBA, ADOS, Indigenous, and those others who are formulated to vote trying to become the black American family, as I call us. I know black American in law, so I get all that. But you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, with that being said, so how do we, formulating this picture and starting to get a better understanding of what we're seeing, other people are becoming apprehensive, defensive, and not liking that we're seeing what has been hidden. As in the beginning, as it said, remember in the beginning of my intro there, about hides behind the illusion? Well, the illusion is becoming clear to us. We'll start to see what the illusion is, and because we are exposing it or revealing it, many people are very uncomfortable. A lot of people who could steal things right in again, eyes wide shut, but our eyes are becoming open, so things are not so easy and prevalent to just steal anymore without us making a shout or having some kind of disdain, whether it be disrespect or trying to be thieving right in our face or just selling us an outright lie. Okay? So let's get into this. Let me go ahead and get into this. Let me see, because it has to be. So I'm going to do it this way, right? Matter of fact, let's do this. For those, again, who may think that I just made that up when it comes to, let's say, about the DNA and selling your DNA. There was also I seen a video about this. And so what I want to show you here is the video of this and let you hear this, and then we'll move on from that because I already have said my point on it. But just in case for those who might think, oh, I'm just making this up, let's go ahead and do this. We ready to do this? Let's go ahead and we should be right back. Check this out and should be right back, y'all.
Sunday show. A new warning tonight about DNA companies and your personal information. Your DNA information can be sold and weaponized against you. The alarm being sounded. Listen to this.
You can actually take someone's DNA, take their medical profile, and you can target a biological weapon that will kill that person. And people will very rapidly spit into a cup and send it into 23andMe and get really interesting data about their background. And guess what? Their DNA is now owned by a private company and can be sold off. We have to have an open and public discussion about what does the protection of healthcare information, DNA information, and your data look like, because that data is actually going to be procured and collected by our adversaries for the development of these systems.
And before anybody goes crazy on this out there, that's a Democrat Congressman, Jason Crow, so not a right-wing talking point. I have been warning people about this for years, since 23andMe and all those spit in the vial, send it in. We're giving our information away. Health information is valuable information about you, and also the abuse and where the data is stored. You brought up that point in the break, Tammy. I want to go to you first. Who has the data matters here?
Well, I am the product of an affair. I don't really know anything about my father. So this DNA stuff was fascinating and very important to me. I've learned so much about who I am that I never could have guessed. And that is because of DNA. It's not the data or DNA that's the problem. It's the companies or the countries that control the data. China, of course, over a decade ago, like they do everything, moved into this. We are allowing China in relationships with hospitals, buying up companies regarding medical data, involved in when it comes to paternity and maternity, finding out about your fetus and the health of your baby as the baby's developing. It goes to China. The control and the knowledge, the data they have, to say nothing of hackings of hospitals, hackings of our health insurance companies, right? The Office of Personnel Management, Obamacare. Really, we're looking at China and Russia, et cetera. So in deals that the American government could control, we have less control over data. We're allowing foreign countries, enemies to gather this data and, yes, to potentially use it. The fact that that discussion was at the Aspen gathering with American leadership, not in a cave somewhere on ham radio with conspiracy theorists. They've known this for at least a decade, and our government has done nothing to change it. So my message is, It's not the data or learning about who you are that's the problem, any more than a firearm is the problem. It's whose hand is the data in. And that's what we are aware of when it comes to firearms, when it comes to the nature of this. We don't, it's like suddenly they're saying, don't use the data, don't use the, don't find this out. We need to be able to, but they're correct. Right now, our enemies have access to that information.
So Tammy brought up government, and there's a process that we have in various processes and a responsibility for Congress to deal with these companies that come into our country, invest Chinese Communist Party controlled countries, the CFIUS process and others, which covers anything of national security interest. So to the former congressman here.
And the problem with CFIUS is the fact that you have the board members of CFIUS who are not just serving government and the people, they're looking for their next life outside of government. And so they'll make decisions that are not in Tammy's best interest, that the Chinese government's not going to get her DNA information.
Right.
They look at themselves and where they're going to work once they're out of government. The problem is if I spit in a cup, that's one thing. But if my cousins or my parents or my siblings spit in a cup, they get my DNA regardless. And so when I was in Congress, we weren't dealing with DNA. We were dealing with social media privacy. Your information on the internet, on social media, should be yours. And people that are our age, I'm excluding Jackie, our age, we actually care about privacy. But everyone Jackie's age, they couldn't give a darn. They're like, take it, I don't care.
They haven't known it. They haven't known privacy.
Because they haven't known privacy. We have, and we've lost it. They've never known it, so they don't know what they're missing.
All right, so let's add another aspect to this.
Chicken.
Senator Joni Ernst weighed in on this. And by the way, let me add, how many of you have added your animal DNA out there to find out who your animals are from? But here's what Senator Joni Ernst had to say.
If we look at food security and what can our adversaries do with biological weapons that are directed at our animal agriculture, at our agricultural sector, hoof and mouth disease, highly pathogenic avian influenza, African swine fever. If targeted by an adversary, we know that it brings about food insecurity.
And she's 100% right. She's 100% right. And look, when it comes to data, the point that you made about social media and the fact that our data has been cannibalized for years now already, it should be no surprise to anybody that the 23andMe, for example, could turn into this. The weaponizing of it is something that we're all thinking about after COVID-19. If you subscribe to the theory, even if it was an accident that COVID originated in a lab, you can see the catastrophic consequences of what could happen there. And so people really need to think about what they subscribe to. The power that we have right now is not with Congress. It's actually with the individuals. And I tell people all the time, don't put Alexa in your house if you don't want people listening to you. Don't buy 23andMe if you're against what they're doing with the data. All we can do is stand up for ourselves and protect ourselves and not sort of follow the herd, follow the crowd.
To that point, because I have
a phone, a listening device in and of itself, right? I mean, we've got them all with us
This was
right
a wake-up call in that I've got the Alexa, and I was like sitting around, and the Alexa chimed in and said, by the way, would you like us to tell you to drink some water if we hear you coughing? And it's like, no. What? First of all, does that mean you would need to be listening? It's like that is the under the ground permission.
Listening.
It is the permission to listen constantly, regardless of what it is you've asked it.
I gotta go. I know, but I want to talk about cows and DNA. And is there a certain American DNA in American cows versus like cows?
Well, there is.
Well, we have different virologies, different systems. This is valuable information. The point.
Different lines.
Back to Tammy on this again. Who has the data? Who uses it?
Yes.
Hey, you sitting here watching the video. Why you sitting there? Put your hand on that like button, click it, thumbs it up, share this video, comment. You can like or dislike it. We don't care about that. And also, if you ain't over here and subscribe, what you waiting on? Get yourself over there and subscribe to get on up to WeUpReport so you can stay up because we're going to keep you up. That's how you help keep this channel going. You can also do some monetary donations. We'll tell you about that later. But right now, wake yourself up, like, share, and comment. And don't forget, when you subscribe on that button, hit that for all notifications. You know
I need some money, got some money, I need some cash in hand. Come on, gotta get it. You know I need the money, gotta get the money, cause I need some cash in hand. Come on, gotta get it.
And we are back, right? All right. So, as she said, whose hand is your DNA information, genetic data, whose hand is it in? Who's using this as a weaponization? Now, from what they were talking about, that's one aspect of it. And I'm not trying to try to say that that is not important for us not to know. That is some food for us to chew on to even think that somebody even has the notion to even think that way. And if, you know, they say if they looking at it that way, probably already done. But the problem is we need to be aware of it as well. Now, I'm looking at this in another way as well. Another way of weaponization is based on the simple fact that how, again, there is movements by FBA, ADOS, FBA, Indigenous, and all others that fall under the umbrella, as I call it, both trying to become what I say Black Americans, right? But the other weaponization has something to do with, I'm going to say, when we're talking about, when people say indigenous, when people say they are attaching this to a landmass, that they're the originals, and the story that has been told, and I'm not to dispel it, but I'm just saying at the end here, I'm going to lay something out for those who only can see one geographical location as the only begotten story that there could ever be. And because somebody else told you that, and because you went to school and been degreed and make your money, whether it be a professor and all this other stuff, could there also be another side to that story? Yes, we see a whole bunch of people on one particular continent, so we think that the origin is there, but could it be something else? And the reason why I'm going to do this as another part of weaponization of, let's say, genetic, biological, let's say, origins, because somebody else can have the weaponization to be able to shift things around according to what they already know of the stuff that's been given. Well, what you talking about, Mr. Blowy, man? You saying a whole bunch of talking around saying nothing. Okay, well, you know, there's a story when we talk about those of here in the United States, and then again, like I said, there's a movement of some of our brothers and sisters who are talking about indigenous to the United States. And then there's others on the other side who are Pan-African and things like that, who are saying, no, we have to be Africans. And so one person's story is sifting through, trying to figure out the maze, as I said, the puzzle, trying to put the pieces together to come to determine what is, and the other one has gotten a story that's already been told, and they're following it, and I don't know if they haven't really gone through it, but then there's some things that have been put out here that I just want to lay out to see, is it possible that maybe that is not what they say it is? Well, first I'm going to go here, because this is the story we always been told, right? When you think about when you say indigenous to the United States, the first thing that comes to many people's minds is what? The Indians, Native Americans, correct? And they are somewhat automatically given as the original people in the United States, correct? And then there's a story that goes along how these people who are considered Native Americans got to this land. And that story has been sold and told, and people believe. Same thing when you talk about on the continent of Africa. So I just happened to have seen a video, and I thought it was interesting. I was like, you know, I've never seen nobody actually try to say, okay, let's see you do this. But then I have my own thoughts about when I'm looking at it, and I will show you based on the video that I saw. You want to see it? So here you go. This is the video I was watching, right? So there was this video that I seen. It was a BBC video, BBC. And it was a 2006 inside out of Bering Strait crossing. Let me say that one more again. It was a BBC 2006 inside out Bering Strait crossing. And so I was like, okay, I want to see this. Because we all heard the story about how supposedly these Native Americans came across the Bering Straits and trekked across and end up becoming here, and it's been given that these people that they show are the indigenous indigenous to the landmass that we call the United States. And again, there's always going to be those people who say y'all don't want to be Africans, and you know that you came here on a slave ship, and somehow you guys have Stockholm syndrome. You want to be with the white man, and okay, it's going to be a whole bunch of that. But I'm just here to pose something for food for thought, for fact to chew on. So I was asking the question: is it possible to walk across the Bering Strait? Did you ever think of that? Did you ever think about, could you walk across the Bering Strait? I know we've been told, and then the way they show you on the map, they show this little bitty spot when you look at the back of the map and you say, oh man, they could cross there. That look like that's touching. But when you put it in factual, when you get to know the dynamics and symmetry and what's really out there in the land, skirts and masses of it, it may change your mind a little bit. So I watched this video. Right, I was watching this video, and I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. Now, I'm not going to play their video because they will hit you with the copyright strike. But what I did do, I got all the stuff that you can go. Matter of fact, you see the video on there. If you want to go see it in its entirety, that is it for you there to show that I did not make this up. 5 years ago, BBC 2006 Inside Out of Bering Strait Crossing. Correct? You see that, right? All right, so it goes on, and then they start talking, and they said, okay, they go in, and then they show Bering Straits. But you kind of see them two things that you see down there. That's them in there. We're going to get into that, but that's them two, and this is what they showed, right? So you, observation, looking at this, what are you thinking in your mind? I don't have to tell you nothing, but if you see this, and the story you've been told about crossing the Bering Straits, and those came from there and came on down, you never seen anything, you heard the story, but you had to have the visual, right? So they are out there. I didn't go out there, they went out there. So I'm just going to show you what they show, right? So that's what you see there, right? You see that. So you see them, they got something like some kind of, I don't know if that's a kayak or a float, whatever it is, but they out there, they stuck out there. They got stuck out there, they out there. These two mugs, and I'm going to give you who they is and give you the back story to them and how they got out there. But that's how it's going down. It's going down just like that. So you got these two that you can see, these two men, grown men out there, submerged in icy cold depth waters. And then we're going to get into some of the other aspects of that because, again, like I said, is it possible to walk across the Bering Strait? They said in theory it is possible. In theory? Theory. The analysis of a set of facts with their relations to one another, the belief, the policy, the procedure posed by or followed, an ideal of a hypothetical or unproved assumption. Do I need to say that one more again? Theory. The analysis of a set of facts and their relations to one another, belief, policy, procedure proposed or followed, an ideal, hypothetically, an unproved assumption. That's what a theory is. And so they said the theory is that you could ski or walk across the Bering Strait when it is frozen during midwinter. Well, I guess they're not out there where it was solidly frozen, and look what's happening to them, right? That's what they saying. And then saying in order for you to actually do something like this, you're going to have to get the permission from Russia, which they say is very hard to obtain. And they talk about how the ice is notoriously unstable in the middle of the strait. Now, again, let me say it again. They said the ice is notorious, unstable in the middle of the strait. Right? But we was told you can actually track that. You could do that, right? Okay. And so I was wondering, well, how long would it take for a person to walk this Bering Strait? Now, these are going to be the individuals you're going to see here. Because they're talking about in 2006, one man named is Britain. He's a Britain man named Carl Bushby. And then they got a French-American adventurer. They call him an adventurer. His name is Dimitri Kiefer, right? And they said that these two men crossed on foot. But I watched this video, right? And you're going to see the end part of it, but that's what they are getting credit for. And they said they were walking across the frozen, they say 90 kilometers, which is, they say is 56 miles, They took 15 days for them to do this. But again, I want you to keep that in mind. 15 days that they supposedly had walked this. But we're going to show you as I go on. I'm going to show you this for my own self, right? So, this is where they're going to start out. It may be a little blurry for some of y'all to see, but it's right there. And they're going to start up in a place that they call Wales, Alaska. Okay? Wales, Alaska. Okay? Wales, Alaska is where they're going to start off at. Now, accordingly, I did some research, right? And in my research, it says that it is 2,440 kilometers. Okay? Because the next spot they're going to go from there is, let me see. Do we got that one? We should have that one, right? Okay. Right? So before we go there. So this is Wales, Alaska. They give you the visual to show you from that side. You can see it snowed, right? Little place right here. It's snowed up over there and everything. Okay. And then you get to see the tundra, right? You get to see the landscape. Now, this is the Wales, Alaska side. They ain't going across yet. But this is from this side going across, right? Okay. So you got that in mind. Okay. So now again, they're going to go from Wales, Alaska to Yulin. I think it's called, how do you pronounce that? I think it's called Chut. It's Chukaka. Chukaka, right? Chukaka. That's it. Chukaka. That's Chukaka. Yulin, Chukaka to Wales, Alaska, right? That's the distance. Now, I had asked the question, I said, well, how far is those two from one another? Based on the research that I found, it said it was 2,440 kilometers. Okay? 2,440 kilometers is equivalent to, according to this here, it says 1,516.146 is about 1,516 miles. Okay? Okay? That's why I did the 2,440 kilometers is equivalent to 1,516 miles. Now remember, I told you in the beginning that they claim that these two individuals only went 56 miles. But they said that there's 2,440 to reach from Yulin, Chukaka, from Wales, Alaska. But these two individuals only went 56 miles. Okay, so just keep that all in mind, right? All right, so this is how this is going to go down. But how did they get here? So they had to give you the backdrop story how they got there. So this individual, right, the French American, he started in Punta Arenas, right? Punta Arenas. And he's going to traverse from that. He's going to go all the way from Punta Arenas. He's going to go through South America. He's trekking. Now, he's walking. And that was his starting point. Again, go back. His starting point is Punta Arenas, right? Like Gilbert Arenas, right? Punta Arenas, right? And then he's going to trek all the way through from there, going through South America, okay? Then he's going to trek through South America, coming across there, right? Moving on, in this case, I guess you say he's moving, would that be westbound? Be westbound, right? Kind of, let's say, what's that? The west, what's that? Kind of southwest? Kind of a southwest trek a little bit, right? So anyway, then he's going to come through North America, come up through, and he's on his way trekking up through North America. Now, this cat here is doing this, right? Right? And then he's going to get to what they call Rockets or Rocky, Canada. Right? Rockies, Canada. That's where he's going to get there, right? And then they're going to show you this individual here, right? That's him, right? Rockies, Canada, Canadian Rockies in 2002. You see him, got his cart and everything. He's trekking this. They've been following him doing this, right? This is him. He's been doing this. So this is the individual who they're showing is trekking on there. That's that individual. I think that's the Pfeiffer cat. And he's the one that's doing the trekking. So he ended up meeting up with the other individual. Remember, again, it's going to be two individuals who are going to be doing this, right? There's Carl Bushby, and then this individual here must be Dimitri Pfeiffer, I think it's right. Yeah, this must be Dimitri Pfeiffer, or Kiefer, not Pfeiffer, Dimitri Kiefer, okay? And this is the individual who's going to meet up with him, which is Carl Bushby. So there's going to be these two that's going to end up trekking what they call the Bering Straits, okay? And so they mapping out what it is, and then they give you the visual. You see on his finger, his middle finger, he got ice bit fingertips on, been already to give you that visual of how rough it is out there. That it ain't nothing to play with, right? That the frigid cold out there ain't nothing to play with. So they gave you the visual. This is an individual who out there all the time. Now I'm not saying I don't think that's Kiefer's hand. I think that's Bushby's hand, because I think Bushby is going to be the one that's going to help him to trek through. That's why he's with him. But as they were showing us, giving you the visual, seeing in the map, and they mapping it out, but they gave you see that shot of that hand. You know, they selling it, right? They got to sell it, right? They selling all that. So, okay, we see that, people. So they give you those are the two there, right? That's Carl Bushby, and that's Dimitri Kiefer. These are going to be the two that's going to supposedly trek and cross across this Bering Strait. So you see them, they suited and booted. They out there, they ready to do their thing. They finna do their trek. Okay, so we see all that. So the individual with the white hat, this individual is the one that is kind of like, I don't know if he's like the guard or he is the job as the preserver of that, because accordingly, the bridge that it used to be there, they closed that off. According to the research I did, they said that they took all the gold and stuff up out of there, so ain't no need, they closed it down. So now basically you can't go from basically Wales, Alaska, to the part of where you see the little island and then cross over to Yulin, Chukotka, right? You can't just do that. So you have to do a straight shot over from Wales, Alaska, over to Yulin, Chukotka, right? And that individual with the white hat was saying, he was like, man, it's crazy. Don't nobody do that. It ain't never been done. And I was like, what did he say? He said, yeah, it ain't never been done. You know, we don't do that. He said it would be crazy to go out there. Nobody can survive out there. And I was like, ears perking up like, really? You can't do that? No? Did he know that we hearing that? Oh, okay, so they saying that again, when you think about from Wales, Alaska to Yulin, which is Russia, right? You left Wales, Alaska to Yulin, Russia. Now remember back in them days, let me just show you how propaganda works. And when you not geographical, but when you don't have geography as part of your understanding. Y'all remember when Sarah Palin said, I can see Russia from my house? You remember how that was such a big ass joke? Y'all remember that? I can see Russia from my house. Guess what? From Alaska to Russia, you can't see Russia. So if you laughed about that, that just showed, and white folks show, guess what? We don't teach that in school any damn way. You have to be specific and get to college and start getting into all that to learn that. In grade school, you may read a little bit in the book, but you don't really actually know. You may study a little geography and stuff like that, know the map, but you don't get into the specifics of it, and especially if you don't travel, right? What are them niggas gonna go to Alaska for any damn way? But anyway, but this is the story they're telling us, right? So they said that if you was to travel from Wales, Alaska to Yulin, Russia, or Chukotka, right? It take 22 hours and 8 minutes to get to there, right? And that's including with the transfer they claim. Okay, so this individual say, nobody around here do that. We ain't crazy like that. But remember, this is the story we've been told, right? So I was like, okay, all right. So, all right. So he telling that, they kind of looking like, okay, we're going to do it anyway. Now, here these in preparation. They getting themselves prepared to take this trek. Now, look at all the stuff that you see them got in there with them, that they're going to try to take with them over 2,440 kilometers, which is how much again? 1,516 miles, right? And they probably taking all this stuff with them so they can trek this. Now, remember what we've been told about those that came, that trek from the Bering Straits. They just said that that's the way they came. And you can just take the story. Like, once upon a time, 3 bears lived in a house, right? Mama bear, Papa bear, baby bear, right? You heard that story before, but you ain't never seen the bears. You ain't never seen them sitting in a house in no bed, but this is a story you told and you believed when you was a child. What am I saying? What you saying, Mr. Blow Your Mind? Well, I'm just telling you, right? Anyway, listen. So anyway, so this is the stuff they need to take with them. They got a trek to go ahead and make this trek, right? That's what they say. Now again, they say 56 miles, but again, according to what I did, it says 2,440 kilometers, which is 1,516 miles, equivalent to 1,600 miles. So, okay, with that being said, but look at what they doing in preparation, right? They even had a gun. They showing the what they call it, taxonomy. I think it was a taxonomy, right? But you know, when they stuffed it down, it was like a polar bear, some shit out there, had his teeth and shit, and like they had to keep the gun because my boy might get caught out there with a polar bear, so you got to cap his ass in case he run up on you, right? Shotgun and all the good shit. So this is all the shit you're gonna need to make this trek. Now, 22 hours is that ain't by foot. I think that had to be by some, you know, jet skis or driving, whatever. But that ain't walking. There ain't gonna be no 22 hours walking. And I'm gonna show you why that ain't gonna be. But anyway, so look at all the stuff they need in preparation to make this trek. Now again, they coming from Wales, Alaska, going to Yulin, Chukotka, Russia, okay, which is on the other side of the Bering Strait. Okay, so do that there, right? And so now they finna give us the Christopher Columbus story. They will give us a Christopher Columbus story, because as you see on your screen, this is what they want to tell you and show you, because somehow reason he was on his way to India but ended up being in the United States, or no, let's talk about that, in Cuba, right? But he's probably going to India, and then they said they're going to India. All these navigators, right? The great navigator, but somehow reason can't read the damn map. Now these two, right? It's going to now start up in Wales, Alaska, as you can see, if it's not too blurry on your screen, somehow it's not trekking too far going that way, right? Now, is this to sell the story? Because why? They have to be off course, because why? You're watching. If you see what we just seen, it's a possibility, you're going to be like, how's that possible, right? So now what they're saying is they going too far. Let's say if east or west is from Wales, Alaska, going across, you can see it there. Now you can see that little bridge, or you can see that little spot where there'd be an island, which they would go there, but they can't go there because that's closed off. They made that, but you can't go there no more. So they're gonna trek around instead of going across straight. Now they're gonna trek up like they got lost. Like I said, the Christopher Columbus story, right? That's what they're doing, right? And so what you end up seeing is they getting out there in that water out there, and they trekking in it. They done went off course. At least that's what they selling. That's the visual they giving us. They showed that part here, right? They showed you this, right? And then they showed you this, right? So say they was off course. Well, I say, well, that's the Christopher Columbus story, because when I did some research, I said, well, damn, you know what? How deep is the water there? 295 feet. They said on the average of the strait is 98 to 164 feet. I said, what? 295 feet? 98 to 164 feet? Huh? Oh, and who all tracking across this? Ain't no kids coming. Ain't can't be no kids coming. There's got to be all grown folk, and most likely men, right? If you think they finna do this, but look at these cats in this 2006 tracking this. And look how they out there struggling and doing all this. Right? Okay. Maybe it's just me, right? Maybe it's just me. Maybe Mr. Blowback, you trying to come up with some shit. Nah, you ain't doing that. Stop the bullshit. Okay, whatever, right? So they showing you, then they give you this out picture, and they showing this, like you've seen all that out there, right? So remember, going back, they had to tell you they're going off. Because if they're going straight across, you would have to say, right? If you think they're going straight like they're supposed to, and then they're showing you this, you know there's no way, damn way, nobody can trek across that, right? Instead of that, they had to sell you this, right? They had to sell you that they're going off course, that they're not going straight. They end up veering off that bad. Now, wait a minute, we in 2006. I think I would assume they have better technology, at least knowing, especially when you're going to deal with all this cold and all this and trekking across this strait. So how did you get so badly off? Well, I don't know, right? They ain't got no answer for that, right? They just happen that way, right? They just happen. Okay, but anyway, so they kept trekking even further. According to what they were showing you on this part. See, they were showing you this as to actually what they was actually doing here, right? So this is selling that, right? You selling that. Look how far way off. You went that far off? Right? Christopher Columbus story. You feel me? That's the Christopher Columbus story. Now you were still in India. We're going to still be, this still going to be what it said it is, even though we lost. Right? But is it really lost? Or is it impossible? As it said, it's impossible. It's only a theory that it can be done. Only if we lay the facts and say the relations to one another and make you believe this and this become a policy in the way that we describe this in history, and this will be the procedure that we propose, and we make everybody follow it because this is our idea of the hypothetical that we have laid. You follow what I'm saying? All right, so let's move on, right? So here they is, right, man? All that. All that. And they had to come get with a helicopter. And then eventually they showed them they end up being over in Russia. And when they go over, they want to tell, oh, you know what? Look at all the people. They dress up just like we, as cold and ready for everything, right? All right. So that's what they showed, right? That's what they showed when it came to that. Ain't that something, right? That's what they showed, okay? So, is the Bering Strait story what it is? Or is it impossible to actually do? Is it? Because that's what they sold. I wouldn't look, and that's what I wouldn't look for, because I was looking for, let me see if it's possible that it can be done. Do you believe it's possible? Now, I know that's my slide, and some people say I'm skewing it or I'm spinning the story. Again, I gave you the video, and go see it for yourself, right? So, all right, Mr. Boyman, you said that, but what does that got to do with anything? What does that really got to do with anything? Well, how about this, right? Because we in the season, right? We in the season for what? What we in the season for, y'all? Pulling cars. This is pulling car season. It's officially open. Everything's successful. Every lie is going to be overturned. Everything that's suspect shall be questioned. Every person need to be identified. Right? So, let's look at it. Because, again, we have some of our brothers and sisters of our family members of our bloodline who are packaging and getting that preparation of indigenous and indigenous. And there's a lot of people who are going against that and got so much to say and taking the stories that's been laid for them and have they disproved, because disproving got a lot to do with what? Theorizing or a theory, to unprove the assumption of what had been said. Have you proved your part, or you just taking the assumption of what they gave you and you going with it because that's the policy? Because a lot of you, just because you've been educated and given this degree, this passport to be able to move in their system, makes you think that you know it all, right? Not take nothing away from you saying that you don't know something. I'm just saying, but if somebody gave you something, again, if I'm isolated, right? When they say that black people are Stockholm Syndrome, we love the white man because that's all we know, right? That's what some people say, but yet they breaking their damn ass to get in here, to get this education and these jobs, and then the same thing they gonna prescribe for themselves, right? That's what they want, to bump you out the way so they can, right? But we ain't trying to, because we understand the game. We've been here longer than that. So we know you long enough, right? It's kind of like trying to lie to your mom and daddy. They know you. They know when you lying. You can try to be slick, and one of them, you know, you can't even get away with it. Sometimes get two, you can't play none of that game with. So that's how we be coming here. We done got to the point where it's like, you can't tell no lie. We going to step it and break it down. Just like there's this discussion going on about the hip hop, right? Okay. So anyway. So they showed this. So I said, I remember back in the day when they talked about this. Didn't y'all see that? Perfectly preserved 12,000-year-old skeleton proves Bering Strait theory. Perfectly preserved 12,000-year-old skeleton proves Bering Strait theory. They said prove it. How can you prove a theory? It's unproven. Oh, okay, but based on what they finna say in here, everything is what it is, right? Okay, well, let's take this quick little break, and we'll come right back. How about that? Well, let's do that. Hey, you sitting here watching the video. Why you sitting there? Put put your hand on that like button, click it, thumbs it up, share this video, comment. You can like or dislike it. We don't care about that. And also, if you ain't over here and subscribe, what you waiting on? Get yourself over there and subscribe to get on up to WeUpReport so you can stay up, because we're going to keep you up. That's how you help keep this channel going. You can also do some monetary donations. We'll tell you about that later. But right now, wake yourself up, like, share, and comment. And don't forget, when you subscribe on that button, hit that put all notifications. You know
I need some money, got some money, cause I need some cash in hand. Come on, gotta get it. M-O-N-E-Y. You know I need the money, gotta get the money, cause I need some cash in hand. Come on, gotta get it.
Alright, I think we back. I think we back. Alright. So we are back, right? So as I went into that little break there, right? We was talking about the perfectly preserved 12,000-year-old skeleton proves Bering Strait theory. Now you should be able to go and find this, just in case somebody may think I'm making that up. You can go see for yourself. But they was talking about how there was some new research. And they were talking about how it is the new research of one of the oldest and most complete American skeletons revealed. Now, this was back in 2014, okay? About 8 years ago, okay? And they said that this further proves, then they said this finding is going to prove that all Native Americans descended from what they say. Now, listen to this, y'all. This skeleton that they found, that's this 12,000-year-old skeleton, that's going to prove that all Native Americans descended from Siberian migrants. Let me say that again. The skeleton that they found, that they reported in this article back in 2014, said it was going to again prove the Bering Strait theory, and it was going to prove that all Native Americans descended from Siberian migrants. Siberian is another place, right? So you're not indigenous to this place, right? You're not the autochthonous to this place, right? But you are a migrant. So guess what, y'all? Everybody's a migrant in here, but whom? All right, we moving on, right? And so these Siberian migrants supposedly be the ones that had crossed what they call the land bridge. And I was always thinking about land bridge. Well, who built the land bridge? Who was out there and built that bridge from, like we seen in Wales, Alaska, going over to Yulin, Chukotka, right? Chukotka, that's my Russian, Chukotka. Anyway, so this land bridge that they claim that there's somebody they built, so they saying it was a bridge, so they didn't go over the water like they were trying to do. They went over a bridge with that. You still got to ask yourself the question, who built the bridge, right? And they talking about how thousands of years ago, right? And so this team of scientists had announced this in 2014. And so what they discovered is that the bones that they said of a teenage girl. Now, they always got to find a female, right? And why is that female going to be a female? Because why? But they don't tell you who is populating her, right? So they always got to leave that question about the male part, because if it's a male, you're going to automatically know, right? It ain't going to be him. It ain't going to be him. It's going to be us, right? So we ain't gonna always find a female, because I'm telling y'all right now, I may not be here when this all come to one day. When they pull that Lucy bone up, y'all, you're going to find that why they call it Lucy. You're going to find out why they say Lucy or Lucy, you crazy, right? You're going to find out that Lucy ain't who you thought Lucy was. One of these days. But anyway, so the bone of this teenage girl they discovered. Now listen how they said they discovered this woman, this little girl. She older than me. She a little girl at the time when they found it, if this is to be true, right? But accordingly, they discovered her underwater in a Mexican cave. Let me say this again. How they said they're going to prove the Bering Strait theory. And they said that this little girl who they find, who's 12,000 years old, And how they found her was underwater in a Mexican cave. And they said the cave dates back at least 12,000. Now, they said the girl is 12,000. They said the cave is... Oh, wait, hold on. Excuse, Mr. Bergman, wait a minute. Say that one more again. Say what again? Oh, that the little girl that I had said originally was 12,000, but ain't really the girl is 12,000, but it was the cave that they found her in was 12,000. So this 12,000-year-old cave that they found this bones of this teenage girl that they discovered underwater, ain't that something? They said this is the smoking gun. The smoking gun in her DNA, her mitochondrial DNA, is the link to the Bering-Strait theory. It is this who they found. Ain't that something? And in that DNA, what they found, and they indicated that she is Asian lineage. Let me say that one more again. The girl, this girl they discovered, who bones that they know that she was a teenager, in an underwater Mexican cave. The cave dates back to 12,000 years ago. This became the smoking gun in her mitochondrial DNA. That's going to be the thing that proves that the Bering-Strait theory is a fact. And when they did the DNA test on her, they found that she is an Asian lineage. And they said she shares with many modern descendants of Native North and South Americans. Really? Oh, so all these people we see today who sitting here talking about they Native Americans and sitting here trying to elbow room themselves and talking about they probably get some reparations, and really people who migrated from Siberia? Do they not know that these other people know that? So how you finna get paid? Well, anyway, that's enough for another time. So anyway, that's what they said. If you go read in this article, that's what they say. And they said that the little girl who they found, they said in her DNA, her mitochondrial DNA, they said it was approximately about 11% of her of Native American exists in her genetic lineage. Now in her is 11%, but what about these people? In her was 11%, but what about these people here? So again, the question I got to ask for those who might be thinking, and this is what I thought, okay, the cave was 12,000 years old, but how old is the girl? How old is the girl? Just because you found her in an underwater cave, that don't mean she could have fell in that water in 1970, right? Could have fell in the water, which it could put it possible, right? Current took you, whatever. And that's another thing about that Siberian. The current, the strongness of that water, they can't cross that. The girl fell in there, but you don't tell me how old is the girl. So psychologically, me mind fucking you makes you think, as I said originally, that the girl was 12,000 years old. But they never said the girl was 12,000 years old. What they said is she was a teenage. But she's teenage, meaning she's in the approximately between the ages of 12 and what's that, 17, 18? Depending on what the law was at that time. Well, 12 to 17, 12 to 18, teenage. But how old was she? Didn't say. So how do we know this ain't somebody modern who just happened to be the mitochondrial DNA of them people today? Don't mean she was 12,000 going back, but that's what they said, right? Okay, I know. And they had put this in the journal, y'all. They had put this in the journal Science. This is what they're going to substantiate. And so when they talked about this girl, they said that she fits the current... Now listen to this. She fits the currently favored model. What do you mean favored? Favor means somebody choosing over something. Does it not? When you say favor, that doesn't necessarily mean what is in, let's say, in sequence of findings, what comes first, chicken or the egg? Well, maybe I like the egg story coming first before the chicken. Or maybe we like the chicken coming before the egg. So which story are we going with? The one we favor. You understand what I'm saying? They favor this one over another. So that tells you right there, bias. That's biasness in the story. When you favor something over something, that means you have a bias over something. So this favorite model of the American migration from Asia across the Bering Strait. So this fits the narrative, right? This girl is going to fit into the narrative of the way they then told the story that they've been selling, right, about the Bering Straits. So she's going to fit according to the favorite model we like. And so this also about what they like about this model. They said that it suggests that the population was known as the Clovis people. Clovis? You mean like Charlemagne? I think it's Charlemagne's daddy name was Clovis. Clovis is another way to say Louis, right? Clovis people. So that means somehow this got to be connected to Europe. Do you know your history? Do you know your history, right? So anyway, so they said that this model that they favored that is fitting for this migration from Asia across the Bering Straits, and the DNA of this mitochondria that was in this girl is favoring this model, we're going to suggest, because it also is tying itself in with the Clovis people, who they said spread themselves out throughout the continent. They said about 13,000 years ago. So what does that mean? Are you paying attention? Are you paying attention? Because they said how, wait a minute, then they said that they found her in a cave that was dated at what, 12,000? So what's oldest, 12 or 13? 13 oldest. So what are they kind of saying? Can you peep the Smitties on it? Can you peep that Smitties? The Smitties is saying what? Clovis people is older than these people here. Because remember, they found her in the cave. They never specify how old she was, but they telling you, according to the model that they want to suggest that they favor, that the population known as the Clovis people who spread throughout the continent around 13,000 years ago. Now, these are the people. The place they found the girl was in a cave. That was 12,000. Are you following me? Okay. This is what I'm talking about, the weaponization of DNA. This is the weaponization of DNA through history. Follow me, right? And so they said there had been a hot debate about whether these Clovis people really came across the Bering Strait. Now, there's another story that predates the story of the migrants that came from Siberia, which is those people who call themselves Native Americans, right? There's a story that predates them when they taught the Clovis people did it before them. Because why? They said there is the story that told about 13,000 years ago the Clovis people had spread throughout the continent. Which continent? What continent are they talking about? Are they talking about the continent of, was that Asia? Are they saying the Asian continent that they spread through? Or are they saying the continent of what, the Americas? What are they talking about? But 13,000 years is older than the Mexican cave with the girl in it that was 12,000. Pete Smitties. So, they had this debate about it, whether they had crossed it, and some speculated that the ancient Europeans, did you hear that? Ancient Europeans? Ancient? Now there's ancient European. This article was back in 2014, y'all. Ancient Europeans is now part of this story of the Bering Straits. You know, y'all didn't know that. I'm not saying, there's a lot of y'all who do y'all into science and stuff. There's a lot of us who are not. But I just want you to peep the game, peep the splinters again. Remember, I was talking about weaponization of DNA. Not also the fact that they can use it for weaponization and putting viruses and all that other stuff, but they also can use it weaponization when they talk about archaeology and history, as Malcolm told you in the beginning. Right? How using the textbooks and the propaganda, and, right? Okay, but anyway, let's move on. So, he talked about some had speculated about the ancient Europeans, or what they call the Southeast Asian, sailed. Now, wait a minute. They sailed. But I thought, so they sailed across. How did the Siberians come? Oh, they walked across the bridge. So, one came on boat, the other one trekked through a bridge. Okay, did you know that? So now, let's peep the Smitties now. Let's peep the Smitties. Do we need to take a break? Taking a break? They take a break. Yeah, people in here might be slow. You know what I'm saying? You got to help a brother out. You want me to do this kind of stuff? I'm going to do this stuff every day, all day, But you gonna have to do your part. And if I don't see him when I do these videos, I just pack up and go on. Yeah, I dig? I'm just playing with y'all. But anyway, you gonna do what y'all gotta do. Come on, let's go ahead and let's do this. And we'll be right back, y'all. Check this out. Hey, you sitting here watching the video. Why you sitting there? Put your hand on that like button, click it, thumbs it up, share this video, comment. You can like or dislike it. We don't care about that. And also, if you ain't over here and subscribe, what you waiting on? Get yourself over there and subscribe to get on up to WeUpReport. So you can stay up, because we're going to keep you up. That's how you help keep this channel going. You can also do some monetary donations. We'll tell you about that later. But right now, wake yourself up, like, share, and comment. And don't forget, when you subscribe on that button, hit that put all notifications. You know
I need some money, some money, cause I need some cash in hand. Come on, gotta get it. You know I need the money, gotta get the money, cause I need some cash in hand. Come on, gotta get it.
all right, I think we back, right? So we back, right? But no, y'all know what y'all got to do. You go ahead and do what y'all got to do, right? All right, so let's get back to what we were talking about here, right? Let's get back to talking about it, okay? Right? So they had talked about back in 2014 how there was a past February that was published in Nature. And it put that debate to rest. This supposedly had put the debate about this whole thing to rest. So accordingly, the scientists had sequenced the genome of this particular findings, and that they came a 12,600-year-old infant whose damaged bones were discovered by a construction crew in Montana in 1968. Now, again, this is something entirely different. Now, this ain't the girl that was in the Mexican cave who they found as a teenager at 12,000. So they said now they had another discovery that they had found, right, that was published in February of 2014 in Nature. And it was talking about how, again, the scientists had sequenced the genome, and they say now they had a 12,600-year-old infant. Now they got an infant this time, right? And they said it had damaged bones, and it was discovered at a construction crew in Montana in 1968. And they dubbed the findings of this infant named Anzac Boy. Some of y'all might have heard of that, the Anzac Boy. And the owner of the property where they had found this, right? His genes, according, were 1/3 Eurasian and 2/3 East Indian. Let me say this one again, or East Asian. The finding of a 12,600-year-old infant who they dubbed as the Anzac Boy at a construction site back in Montana in 1968, right? When they found and sequenced this and come to determine that it was 12,600 years old, and they found that his genes were 1/3 Eurasian and 2/3 East Asian. Eurasian and East Asian. Okay. Keep that in mind, right? And they said that this genetic makeup is much like that of the Native Americans. Okay. And so they say what's more about this whole thing, they said that this boy was lying among the artifacts that clearly belong to a group of Clovis people. Let me say this again. This 12,600-year-old infant, again, the girl found in the cave was a 12,000-year-old cave in Mexico, right? 12,000. This one is 600 years predates the little girl or the teenage girl who they found in the Mexican cave, correct? In Montana that they found. Who they dubbed as the Anzic boy, right? And when they did the sequence of this genome, they come to find out that the genes were 1/3 Eurasian and 2/3 East Asian. Okay? And they said the genetic makeup is much like those of the modern Native Americans. And what's going to solidify the part that they need is that this infant boy was laying among the artifacts that belonged to the group of the Clovis people. Did you hear that? Are you peeping the Smitties on this? Are you peeping Smitties? No? All right. And so this Anzic boy is going to prove that the Clovis people and what they call modern Native Americans and Siberian migrants are all related. Let me say this again. But the Anzic boy, who they found at 12,600 years as they dated to his genes, and the fact that he's related to the Eurasians and to the Native Americans, and he was found laying amongst the Clovis people, he also is related to the Siberian migrants. Do y'all see anything here? Do you see the Native American, the Mexican, and the white man seem to be all related? Is that what they trying to say? Is they secretly saying this? Is that what we seeing here? Is that what y'all not understanding where everybody getting all this money? Maybe, maybe not. But anyway, they said they call this finding of the Anzic boy the Rosetta Stone of the understanding of the peoples of America. It is the Anzic boy that has cracked the code that says that the skeleton proves that this Bering Strait theory is fact because of the Anzic boy, And that was by a lead archaeologist named Michael R. Waters of Texas A&M University. He told Newsweek. He the one that related and told this story. I was like, okay, all right. But then there's another twist to this. But, and there's more. What? There's more, Mr. Bernard? Wait a minute. You just said, wait a minute, they white, they Native American, they Siberian, they Asian too, right? Yeah, look at all them over here, right? East Asians, all flooding up in here. Eurasian, Asian, Clovis people, white folks, right? Siberian, it's just Native Americans, right? Oh, okay. But check this twist out. Check this twist out. Now, this Anzic boy, they told you that they did the sequencing, right? And told you that they sequenced his genes and said that he was 1/3 Eurasian and 2/3, right, of East Asian, right? But they said for some odd reason the Asian boy was missing a face. Remember that movie, Face Off? Took his face off, right? Took his face off, right? So he had everything intact, but he had no face. So what does that mean? We can't see what he looked like, right? So for some odd reason to have no face, we can't see what he looked like. We got everything else, but we ain't got no face. Now they said the reason why that matter about his face, check this out. The reason why that matter about when they couldn't find his face and what he looked like is because they had some of the oldest skeletons. There was some older than him. Because remember, he was found by the Clovis people. So he wasn't Clovis. He wasn't the Siberian Native American. Remember, he wasn't that. But they said the oldest skeletons that they had belonging before him, they called them what, y'all? The Paleo-Americans. Keep that in mind. The Paleo-Americans. And so, according to what they said in this article, they said that the Paleo-Americans do not look like modern Native Americans. What? Then I thought a second ago you just said that they're always related. I thought you said 1/3 Eurasian, 2/3 East Asians, also related to the Siberians, and now you saying, and also to the Clovis people. But now you say, wait. So now you're saying that it appears he don't even look like what you call Native Americans. So they say instead, instead, they appear more like people native, guess where, y'all? Australia and Africa. Let me say that again. After all that, you found it all right. Yes, you did. Now, they said that the boy, the Isaac boy, who's now missing a face after they went and did the sequence of his DNA, come to find out that he had 1/3 Eurasian, 2/3 East Asian, said that he was linked to the Siberian, and also to the Clovis people, but he didn't look like none of them. He looked like the people from Africa and Australia. Because he didn't have no facial bones. So they said science could not use the skeleton to demonstrate the link between the Paleo-American features and the Asian bloodline. What does his features got to do with his bloodline? Huh? What does his bloodline have to do with his facial features? So he didn't look like them. So how is his blood the same? Or is there something they telling? Something in his facial features and not messing with the way that you had the bloodline of the Asian look. But yet, y'all all connecting in there, right? And so they said there was alternate migration theories start to gather and momentums started to become about bizarre discoveries in desperate parts of South. What do you mean desperate parts of South America? Niggas there first. Niggas there first. Everywhere we dig, the nigga beats us. They keep taking it. Every time we try to put our flag on the moon, we're going to find out you was there first. Right? You was there first. Now keep that in mind because I'm going to show you something that they just did the other day that I caught too. Right? So everywhere we go, we keep finding you. You keep beating it. You keep being in there. Right? So they had to come up with another hypothesis, right? They said they was in desperate need, so they end up finding Verde, Chile. Mount Verde in Chile, right? They found this in Mount Verde. Now listen to this. They found a human footprint was discovered. A footprint? A footprint. Like practice? Practice. A footprint? Oh my God. And they said that this footprint that they discovered, and it said it was about 3 hertz. And it said it dates to about 33,000 years ago. So that's older than 12,000 when they found a teenage girl. That's older than 13,000 of the Clovis people coming across the Bering Straits in the ship. That's older than the 12,600-year-old Siberian that came across the bridge. Now we needed one to predate the Paleo-American because you never did tell us what his matched to. You just said that he had Eurasian and he had East Asian in him. But you never did tell me how old he was. Oh, they said 12,600. That's right. He predated the girl. Right? So we know the Clovis people came over here. But you found a boy over here with the Clovis people that was 12,600. But we know he ain't Clovis, but he was somebody else. We don't even know how he got the boy. So they was in depth research. They found a footprint. They said a human footprint, right? That dated to about 33,000 years ago, and they said 7,000 years before anyone could have crossed the Bering Strait and the bridge into modern Alaska. So now they saying this footprint that they found is now going to be 7,000 years before they could have been the Siberian migrants, these Clovis people coming across, right? The footprint. And so these 30,000-year-old bones, apparently they say it was human butchered by giant sloths. Giant sloths that showed up in Uruguay. And they said that the researchers ended up finding possible stone tools in Brazil that date back to 22,000 years ago. Okay? Now they're talking about, could the African-Australian facial differences of Paleo-Americans be explained by ancient seafaring explorers for these places? Not according to the new findings. So who's first? Who came first? Who's in the Americas first? fall into talking about Africa, and they coming on a slave boat. Was niggas already here? According to what they saying, right? Oh, okay. So again, the teenage girl that was discovered, another teenage girl in 2007. Now listen to how they said they found this teenage girl. Now remember they found the other one underwater. Remember that one? Remember when they found her I found her in water in a cave. And that was in what? Antique Boy was in 68. They never specified what year they found the girl in the cave. They just said that the cave was dated for 12,000, that she was a teenager, right? So now they came back and said in 2007, they had some cave divers plummeting in the depths of 100 foot deep. Back in 2007. They were submerged in the pit they called Hoyo Negro, Hoyo Negro, Hoyo Negro, right? Say that fast 10 times. Hoyo Negro, Hoyo Negro, right? What they call is called the black hole. So the diver name was Alberto Nava. Alberto Nava was one of the divers. And according to what he said is that his eyes had adjusted in the darkness and he had seen piles of bones, several piles. Now wait a minute, several piles don't necessarily mean one individual, does it? Several piles can be several different people, two different people, but it's more than one, correct? All right, so with that being said, he said that there was a small cranium laying upside down with a perfect set of teeth. Right? Of all the several bones, there was just this one head that had perfect teeth. And it had dark eye sockets looking back at us. Dark eye sockets. What does that mean? Nothing in it? What you mean, dark eye socket? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. So accordingly, they said it was 15 to 16-year-old. The girl apparently, they got a story, must have slipped and fell into the pit. And they said when the pit was dry. So they saying that the pit of what this girl that's 15, 16-year-old, that remember this Alberto Nava is a diver that happened to go 100 feet deep in a cave called Hoyo Negro, right? Hoyo, right? Hold that nigga that we thought y'all had. We got you. Hoyo Negro. Hoyo Negro, right? And then this person, Alberto Nava, is not a white person, right? So we see, we whites didn't find this. Alberto found this, right? And the story is he remember he said saw several piles of bones, but this one particular small cranium that was laying upside down with perfect teeth that was looking back at us. Well, what about the other bones? Why just this bone? Why this one with just the teeth? What was wrong with the other bones? But anyway, girl was 15, 16 years old. Corny said she must have slipped and fell into the pit, and the pit must have been there when it was dry. But what about the several bones that was also in there? We ain't gonna talk about that. We just want to talk about this one, right? The one we favored, right? Okay, but anyway. And so accordingly, they said she shattered her pubic bone and died there. Is the several bones just her bones, or you saying the bones that you put together was her bones? Because you said the skull with the teeth, you said several piles of bones. So is these piles of bones one person, or there's several people? And then they said there was 26 other creatures, a saber-toothed tiger, and he met his death also in Hoyo Negro. Hoyo Negro. So they said her remains were so well preserved. Now she in water, right? She in water. But her remains are so well preserved. Okay. I remember seeing a video too, not too long ago. They did some stuff. I think it was in either Japan or China, and all those graves or all those tombs were filled with water. And when they brought them out, they were all preserved. So now water don't decay. But I remember, and this is no hate or nothing derogatory or nothing trying to be funny about Michael Jordan and his father, James Jordan. But y'all remember going back when James Jordan came up missing, and they had to do really to identify him was only through the teeth, because right he had over $30,000 worth of dental work in his mouth. And remember, he was so decayed from being in the water for a couple of weeks. Now they want to tell us somebody who could be in the water 12,000, 33,000 years in water somehow all of a sudden that he's fully preserved. Am I crazy? Am I crazy? But okay. Anyway, so she was well preserved. See that she fits the physical profile. Again, now they saying that this one here, she fits the physical profile of a Paleo-American. Now remember what the Paleo-American was. Paleo-American didn't look like the Siberian, the Native American, or the Clovis people, right? Right? And they said he looked more like Paleo-American, looked like the African Australian, right? Okay. So now they said that the skull of this one that they found is a narrow skull and a shorter nose. So, you know, the alkaline nose, right? The alkaline nose, right? Slim features, right? Huh? And so when they said the genetic evidence revealed her Asian heritage. Does Asian heritage mean the way modern Asians looks today? Okay. If we're going to talk about these places and trying to put places and make people to be the origin of these places, right? The origin of these places. And when we take it back in time, is it going to be the same people we see today, modern looking, or who come first? And then there's going to be a byproduct of what is going to end up evolving later as time go on, right? So when they say these places, are they naturally saying the people who you see today? Then that's the way they're giving it all. So now they're saying that this woman, and then they do the test, that now, if she fit the physical profile, physical, right? Not the DNA, but the physical. What does the physical Paleo-American look like? If he's Australian African, he must have an African Australian structured body, right? Okay. But they said that when they did the genetic evidence, it revealed that she had an Asian heritage. And so this is going to be, scientists prove that the modern indigenous North American or North and South American and now Paleo-Americans all came from the same place. Ain't that something, y'all? North, South American and Paleo-Americans all came from the same place. And they said the facial difference between the modern Native American and the Paleo-Americans could be explained by evolution. But they said, but it didn't explain the strange findings in South America. Perhaps they said the archaeology remains of some prehistoric version of the Roanoke settlers. Roanoke? A group of people who arrived by ships and didn't survive. Still trying to find a way in, ain't they? Right? All right. So that's what they said, right? Now, okay. All right. See? From the Bering Straits all the way we came to the Americas. And you hear a story they had said, right? Now, let me go ahead and let me go and put the cherry on the top as I finish this up here. Because I see one more thing, right? I see one more thing as we hit this 142 mark, right? I seen this. Scientists, terrifying new underwater discovery that changes everything. This video just came out a couple days ago. Already hit 2.4 million as you see on the screen, 6 days from the time I seen it, right? So they found a new terrifying underwater discovery. They said it can change everything. Now again, change what? What story needs to be changed? Ask yourself, what is the story that needs to be changed? What came first, the chicken or the egg? Is that what all this is again? When later on, for all of us who are just taking what has been said, right, as a story, and then later on archaeology is going to disprove everything that you thought as time go on. They just leaving little bits and pieces that you don't see as they keep telling in these stories if you don't peep the Smitties, right? What's happening here, right? Let me show y'all something. Let me show you this, because see, I'm gonna have to do this before those people, the Africanish people, I'm gonna have to call them the Africanish people. Because see, y'all think that can't happen. All right, so this was this video. Let me show what this video was talking about. Right, scientists' insane new discovery of a hidden continent under the ocean. Remember what I just told you about how they found the connecting parts to display or to connect and make the reality of the Bering Straits? Here they go again, up under the water, telling you, look what we done found. But I got something to twist at the end before we go out of here and show you something, right? So this is what they were showing in this video, right? So they were talking about how after 375 years, scientists discovered the 8th continent. I thought Black America was the 8th wonders of the world, but now they said the 8th continent is underwater. Really? Okay. So there's another continent, y'all, that they found under the water. It only took them 375 years to find it. Ain't that something? 375 years. Okay. So, you know, everybody know this map, right? Everybody has seen this is the map. This is the map that we've been programmed. We understand. Someone talk about the Decatur and how it's flipped upside down. You know, a lot of stuff. But this is the map that pretty much everybody has a general understanding about geography and the map and stuff like this, right? So you know how they show it, right? So you got North America, you got South America, you got Africa, you got Australia to the right, and then you got Asia, right? Now, okay, something missing, right? There's something missing in that picture, which is what? Europe, right? Europe missing in there, right? And you gotta ask yourself, right? There's Europe in there, right? Now, accordingly, what they say when it comes to a continent, right? My understanding of a continent is a continuous mass of land, right? Isn't that what a continent is? Isn't the continent like the continuous of land mass? Right? So how does Europe become a continent? Because when you look at it from that, right, isn't it what breaks between Asia and Europe? There's no break. That's all continuous. And we understand what they did with the in Africa, right? When they made that, right? We know the canal, right? When they made that over there, right? So that was a breakup to try to come up with this Middle East that they came and seeing how they're attaching that also to Asia, right? But anyway, but this is what the video they were showing, and they were showing this, and I said, hey, this would be good to go with what I'm talking about. So okay, so again, here it is. Europe is considered to be a continent, but it's really Asia. So that's why you heard when they were talking about in that article 2014 talking about Eurasia, right? They created their own. You know what I'm saying? Severing itself. We really Asians, right? But we're Euro-Asians, right? We're Eurasians. So we also used to call that one time a Eurasia, right? There's a book out there for those who know. Go read that Eurasian book and you'll really get some in-depth stuff about some stuff. But anyway, so let me show you something here. Let me show what they were showing in here. Let me show you what they were showing, right? So look at this. 300 million years ago. 300 million years ago, right? Okay, they said this is what the world looked like 300 million years ago. So you got to ask yourself: is Europe really a continent? Or is it what we say? You know, I told those who will avid watchers over here about the dictionaries meaning what we say and who is we? White folks. What white folks say, right? What we say, right? And so a continent is a continuum of expansive land. Now, all right. So if that be the case, 300 million years ago, according to what they show, and we all believe what white folks told us, this is what we go with, so ain't nobody can disprove. What do you see here? It was all one big landmass 300 million years ago, right? Is it just Africa? Is it just Asia? Europe? No, it's all one landmass. But some people will say another word, but we'll come back on that. I know what you're thinking, but they ain't calling that this. They're not calling that this. Right? And so they were showing this, and then they showed that. Right? So this highlighted area that they're showing, I would believe that this would be the supposed start of humanity, right? Remember this. That probably is what they're trying to say that humanity started. It seemed like there would be the area which you would think, like you see that body of water there, that possibly could be what is that? Is that the Indian, close to the Indian Ocean, or the Aden? I think it's Aden Oceans. Eden is Eden or Aden Ocean or lake or whatever that is. Out the ocean, right? Right. So this would be like in the vicinity of what would you say like Ethiopian on it, right? So I'm assuming that's what they showing, right? So they showed this. Okay. All right. So again, starting from there, right? Okay. You see any other connections anywhere? I don't know. Like some other connection up under there, but you can't really see that, right? Can't really see that. Okay. All right. So then they go on and they show this, right? Show you the 7 supposedly continents, because we still kind of questioning Europe ain't no continent, right? Europe is not a continent, but they try to say Europe is a continent. So South America, North America, Asia, Antarctica, Australia, Africa, right? And then there's Europe, right? Okay, that's what they say, right? So this is the overview, what we see of the continents, showing the 7 continents, right? Overview. And then they go on and say about like, okay, now we remember we started at 300 million. So we brought it down to 200 million. And look how it's looking at 200 million. Look at 200 million. See it? Right? 200 million years ago, according to what they showed us in here in this video. If you've seen this, which has just been out a couple days, this is what they're showing. Okay? Then they show this, what they call Pangea, right? Right? Pangea. Right? You probably think that this was Pangea, right? No, not that one, not that one. No, not that one. The other one. Yeah, that one. That was Pangea, right? You would thought that would have been Pangea, right? When you think that's Pangea, when they were all one, but they said this is Pangea, right? Not this one, but this one. That's Pangea, not this one. So I don't know what would this be? This is the world itself. When the world was one, Pangea is something else, right? Pangea is Pangea is what? Oh, okay, all right. Pangea, right? Okay. So then after they came to Pangea, then they talk about the Larissa and the Gawalan land, right? They talk about that, right? They talk about that. And then they go into, they show that, right? Now, what I want you to see here, is how they're going to show the evolution of them spreading, okay? So watch this, right? See, South America, Africa, India, right? Asia, right? But go back to 300 million years. There's some missing there, according to this, right? There should be some missing, right? Anything missing? You think there's anything missing? No? That's all one big break? Okay. All right. So that's what they're showing, right? That's what they're showing. So they're showing that. Then they're showing it, moving, spreading out even more, going out even more. Now I see Australia's forming, this cracking, getting away. Got New Zealand over there, right? You got India over to the right, Asia to the right there, right? 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 That's what they're showing, right? Then they're showing, right? Then they're showing Tasmania, right? Okay? Right? Australia, right? Then they're showing it. They're showing the breaking of these, right? Showing the breaking of it, right? And then they show you what they found up under the water, right? Zealandia. Zealanda. Right? Zealanda. So Zealanda is what they found up under the water there, right? They found that up under the water. Okay, that's fine. No problem with that, right? All right. So if you believe everything they just said, right? You believe everything they done showed you, what I just showed you there, right? So if that being said, how you keep saying Africa? How does one keep saying Africa, right? How can you say Africa, that we Africans, if, right, if we gonna go what they showing, right? Remember, he the one knows, right? If this that 300 million years ago was all one landmass, no break, no crack, nothing. So no matter how this break, it gonna still be the same. Right or wrong, check or not. Right? And so does humanity Is humanity on the planet at this time? Because remember, they also show right after that, they showed the little light. And they're saying this is the beginning. 300 million years ago. So when they go from 300 million and break it down to 200 million, how far have we spread in 100 million years? Because some people subscribe to the monkey theory, right? That we was monkeys. And the whole thing of the pantheons of caveman and that whole, right? Some people subscribe to that. So the question becomes, then for 100 million years, if you go with that evolution and people went out and spread out, because remember in the story about the skeleton or the skeleton and Anzac boy and all that, these people are found over in the Americas, but they can't really understand how they got there, right? So if 300 million years ago, you showing people here, right? Again, this is the evolving of man or human, right? Or are you saying this is already peopling? That's already starting here. And so with that being said, in 200 million years, which is 100 million years later, right? What's happening? Where are people at? How far have they spread it out? Then when the Pangea, they say, well, we not here, right? The Pangea, there is no human life. There's no human life prior before all this. Is that what people saying? Is that what they saying? Right? Okay. All right. Well, that being said, all right. If that be the case, I got a question for you. Okay? If they could sit here and tell us that they found, right, discovered the 8th continent, right? They discovered the 8th continent, and they said that they found this continent where? They found this continent underwater, right? Zelanda, right? Well, I got a question for you. If you can believe all that they tell you, what about this? What about this? Mu and Atlantis. When they talk about Mu and Atlantis existed. We're not talking about Mu and Atlantis anymore. But let's say Mu and Atlantis existed. But they supposedly had sunk too. But if they found the 8th one up under the water, is Mu and Atlantis real? Because they try to say the mythology, the mythical story of Mu. Well, why would you need a mythological story of Mu, but you talk about Atlantis, right? And why would you need to not talk about them? Because why? Look at this. Look at this map, right? So if Atlantis is that close to Africa, and Atlantis is that close to South America, and I think you can get over and get into the Americas that way easy, and possibly from Mu you could traverse across the waters and get over into the Americas if these places existed, right? Say they theorize about the Bering Straits, so can we theorize about if Mu and Atlantis exist? Can we theorize on that? Or we don't have the right to say that. Oh, you, right? That's what you're going to say, right? But the truth of the matter is it possible based on that? And look at that map and look what it says. Negro line, Caroline. Negro line, Caroline. So whoever did this is telling you that the migration happened from west to east, not east to west, from west to east. If this to be true, right? And they're saying that the Negro, if you look at the line and how it traversing, it's coming from Mu, and it goes from there and moving this way across the waters from Mu over to South America. But nothing is moving towards North America. That's what they want us to believe. Nobody from Mu went across from Mu to North America. And we know that according to them, you're saying Negroid. It said it right there. I didn't make this up. They made this up. Negroid. So Negroid would have been all on Mu. Just that little portion there of Kara where the white folks is. Us, we the white one, the Carians, right? Carians, right? So you mean to tell me from Mu, and if Mu was sinking or whatever ended up happening to Mu, that they didn't go acrossward? But you can go across from Mu to South America, but you can't go from Mu to North America. Right? Right? So if you had to make this as a globe and you would have to fold this, would Mu end up being in the back part around Africa? Would Mu end up being in there? So then means that people from Africa could have also went through Mu and be on this side? And the people who are now from Mu end up coming to North America, and that's why the people that's in North America, the United States, the Black American, the FBA, the indigenous ones, are some of the most originals. Just posing a question, posing a thought for you to ponder and you to get out here and converse back and forth about it. Man, Mr. Bull blows your mind. You full of shit. Maybe Mr. Blow Mind, you want something. Maybe for those who are a little bit younger might think about it and say, do some more in-depth research and really get into it, right? Huh? That's what you need to do. Huh? Hey, that's what y'all need to do. Huh? See, if they can find the 8th one, so if that's 8, Mu and Atlantis, so that been 10, right? So 10 is a perfect number, or is to take away Europe, and that means 9. 9 is, 9 completion. 9 is God. See, 10 is when you make up Europe. But if you take Atlantis and Mu, and then this one you're talking about you find, and that's up under there, that's 9. That's the number of God, ain't it? Anyway, this is pull your card season. All these things, all these lies, everything that you've been lying about, gonna come to some kind of fruition. Again, I want to thank each and every one of you who stayed to the end, who stayed here, and like your participation, whether you like the video, subscribed, give your comments, share, help this, because based on what y'all do, I'll come out with more. I got content after content after content. Just questions. It ain't about being no professor or know-it-all. I got questions I'm learning as well too. But guess what? There's a lot of stuff that's being said out here that needs to be questioned, looked upon. And if we don't question it, then they just gonna try to force everything, right? So we need to go ahead and do what we need to do as folks. So again, this is the most hated show on the black corner in the internet. And, to my next show, y'all. And to the next show.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.